Yeah, so moving on to news number 2, Tencent-backed Chinese job portal Boss Zhipin files for 100 million US listing, right? And I think you could sort of compare it to LinkedIn in the West, but LinkedIn has more of the social aspect. LinkedIn wanted to be the Facebook of professionals, whereby I feel like Zhipin is much more really job application focused. This listing comes at a time where the app is becoming is really getting traction. They have like 25 million monthly active users. They're the largest platform when it comes to like this job market and connecting employers to employees. And it's they have 85.8 million certified job seekers on the platforms and 13 million certified companies. So it really shows you the scale of how successful they are in China at the very least. But they're not just sort of like, because I feel like LinkedIn is much more oriented towards like what we call white collars, right? It's a lot more sort of just talking about jobs, office jobs usually. Mm-hmm. Although like I'm sure you also can also find maybe construction site and like maybe more blue collar sort of jobs on there, but I feel like it at least started with this more of a white collar oriented application, right? Yep. Whereby Zhipin has really a mix of everything, and because it's so focused and so specialized on just this form of connecting employers to employees, it really just mixes everything, and then they're covering a wide range of like job opportunities.
And I think in terms of how the market position that it is in, is really the largest online recruitment app in China.
Yeah.
Right. It's like 4 times larger than the second player, which is like Xiaoping, which has and Zhipin has like 2.1 billion job applications sent in 2020, and whereas the second player has about 550 million, there's a third player with about 500 million as well. So you see the big gap between these two players. And from my perspective, I think this is interesting. Not saying this is going to be, this is a revolutionary technology, but it's more of being at the right place in the right time. Because if you think about Chinese recruitment market or Chinese job market, the country is transiting, right? It's really going through a transition whereby there's going to be more and more high-skilled labor, more and more high-skilled jobs in the next 5, 10, 20 years, right? And going forward, the online recruitment market will actually go through an exponential growth. And this is there at the right time, riding on this growth.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, right? Being at the right place at the right time. I feel like, the right time here is the fact that you really on this continuing wave of digitization of everything, right? The pandemic has definitely sort of put that in focus and highlighted this. In the West, it was maybe more about the e-commerce side, but in China, because e-commerce was already so developed, maybe it pushed a bit more of the sort of, we talked about online education, but also working from home and remote working. So the same as the West as well for the remote working part, right? The second thing as well is that you have a massive pain point as well that exists in China that is also due to the fact and the way it's growing, right? We've talked about all these new rising tier 1 cities and the tier 2 cities. And you have almost these forms of regional specification that can make it hard for, new graduates, but also if you're already in a career that you want to change. If it's not in the same city that you are, or for example, the sort of job that you're looking for might not be as present in your city, it can be very hard to sort of know what are the opportunities, right? Even though you can try to look online and everything, it's still not as easy, because obviously if you were in the city, you could probably hear about something. You might have friends who might know something. But yeah, and I think this sort of platform is definitely going to help out a pain point, and especially whenever you think about a new app, you're always thinking about, okay, what's the overall macro trend? And here the macro trend is, well, it's beneficial because it's the digitalization of everything, and this is going into this direction as well. And then, is it solving a real problem in society, or is it solving a real problem? And I think, it is the case here. It is solving this mix and match. Well, not mix and match, sorry, but it is sorting this matching problem that you might have between employers and employees because of these regional issues or these geographical issues, on top of the massive competition that you already have due to the huge amount of college graduate, university graduate, and then the limited opportunities that you have, because there's only so many good opportunities.
And and across countries there are different localized tools. So just think about how big the Chinese job market is, and more often than not, as you say, different industries will be located at different cities. So if you have this one platform that sort of spans across multiple cities, it really becomes a platform that employees or potential employees or job seekers will go on to look for jobs, right? And they will be able to look for jobs from, let's say, if they're in Beijing, they're looking for a job in, let's say, the semiconductor industry, and they'll go to somewhere else to get that job, and they can find it on that one platform, and vice versa. Right, so they're inherently, having this skill and size helps them in many ways, right? Not just the network effect of having more job seekers and therefore you have more companies, but at the same time it reduces their how we call it, their marketing costs, their customer acquisition costs.
Because and that's a very good point that I wanted to point out as well. You talked about the network effect, right? I feel like it is one of those whereby if it reaches a critical mass, essentially, right, it will be the sort of reference, right? I feel like maybe the newer generation, they're going to grow up and they're just going to know that if you want to find a job, you would need to go on Zhipin, right? And it would be, it will almost become a default. And I think that's going to be very impressive. And this is also going to allow them to leverage and maybe to break into, other markets. Because when you think about jobs, it's not, more and more as China also opens its door to, more foreign investment and more foreign companies. We've seen it with Tesla being fully integrated in Shanghai, for example. You've seen it with Goldman Sachs buying their other venture half the minute the Chinese government allowed it, right? I feel like you're going to see this cross-border becoming a more important part of the labor market as well, and not just with the West, but I'm thinking a lot with Southeast Asia, for example, right? It's definitely going to also, they're going to be able to leverage on this size and this dominant presence in China to be able to also break into maybe Southeast Asian markets, maybe into the Western markets, maybe in Japan and all of those, right? And I think that is just positioning themselves in a very good spot for a market that is increasingly becoming digital, right? Because now you're also working from home. So like during the pandemic, we've seen that people are getting comfortable with also an interview that is being done online, right? I've known many people who have gotten job offers during the pandemic and they've never seen their recruiters face to face. So as all of these habits get broken down and you really move to a digital form of not only working from home but also job recruitment and everything, it's going to allow these form of platforms to grow even bigger and to also transition to other forms of services, right? So there's just a lot of upside potentials for such an app.